Hey, this is the Well Advice Channel too. What I want to talk about today is a topic of why do good people keep on failing in life? So when it comes to this topic, okay, I'm going to not only discuss why do good people keep on failing in life, but also the topic of you know, what good people can do in order for them to actually do well in life. And that is what I'll be discussing for today. So now that I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the topic of why do good people fail in life, like why do good people tend to be so unhappy and miserable, and they tend to have the worst things happen to them, like betrayal, like good friends screw them over, have their wives cheat on them, tend to of course as well, you know tend to, in general, just be mistreated by people and just live very unhappy lives that are just not very good and miserable, and even go down roads you don't want to go down, like the stereotypical, loner who doesn't really know what he's worth in life and is just miserable, doesn't have a lot of friends, if any, for that matter, and just kind of just wanders around and doesn't know what he's doing and does a job he hates and is just miserable and doesn't have anything going for him, like all that type of shit, all the cliches you can imagine. You've seen it a million times. Okay, why do good people tend to do so bad in life, and bad people, of course, tend to thrive and become very successful? Have these successful businesses, a lot of money, a lot of friends, and so on and so forth. While the bad people tend to, the good people, I should say, my bad, tend not to do that well. Well, the answer to that question is simple. The reason why is that the belief systems good people have are not the greatest. In other words, good people tend not to be very street smart, okay? And that is the honest truth of the matter. So let me explain in full detail, okay? Specifically, if you're a good person and you don't want that type of shit to happen to you, okay? The honest truth of the matter is, when it comes to the topic of why good people fail, and don't do well, is that they just don't have, a good way of thinking, which is why they always get fucked over by people so badly. And not even just that, it's also the belief systems and opinions and ideologies that they tend to follow make them even easier targets for people to take advantage of them. Okay, so let me go into the first one. Okay, one of the biggest things I've tended to notice, and I've heard this a lot about good people, is that they're very forgiving. Okay, someone might do something bad to them, like maybe they might have a friend staying over at their house, and they steal some stuff, or they have a good friend who they give them their car and maybe give them some money because they said they're really low on money, so they give them a few $1,000s, and the person turned out to just screw them over, you know in some way, shape, or form, and stuff. You get my drift. The stories you tend to hear all the time, it's to the point it's cliche, you know for that matter. Okay, the thing I've noticed about good people is that they tend to be very forgiving. Okay, most people, especially more street smart people, more specifically, when they have things like that happen to them, okay, they would cut that person off for good. But good people, genuinely good people, tend to be more willing to forgive them. Okay, you would have several situations, okay, um with them that are really bad, not even like one or two, like three or even four or more really bad situations, really effed up situations, and they just simply, forgive the person, and that's why they tend to always get fucked over so badly in life, because someone who's bad and would do something terrible to you once is obviously most likely going to do it again. And the thing is, you have to also realize there's something known as recognition. Why the hell do I want to be around someone who does something like that to me, which I know wouldn't happen to me, but like, speaking in paraphrase, for from the perspective of a good person, you know, um, those people specifically, um, they seem to be willing to put up with that shit. And that's why a lot of them tend to get screwed over in life so badly. Okay. And that's why a lot of them tend to live lives where people pick on them, because people have stuff like that, because they have stuff like that happen to them and they don't do anything about it. And that's honest truth in the matter. So that's one of the main reasons why good people tend to fail in life. The other reason why they tend to fail in life is that they're not very vengeful, okay? Or petty, or whatever term you want to use, okay? Which, in other words, means that when people tend to do bad things to them, specifically the most common form of it, like someone says something really bad to them or really does something really screwed up to them, they tend not to retaliate, okay? And that's what I've actually heard a lot, okay? Like people will do screwed up things to them, like say something really nasty, or might, um, for example, maybe record them in a degraded state, or maybe spread a rumor about them. And while people like me and a lot of other people, more street smart people, would go on the offense and would see them in class and start attacking them verbally and say, going on the offense, because I'm not taking that shit. People who tend to be good people don't do that. They're more likely to not retaliate, even when someone did something really messed up to them. Okay, so they hold a lot of pain inside, and obviously that pain can obviously translate to being more likely to hold grudges, well, not even hold grudges, just have psychological issues, like not being willing to trust people, maybe even OCD, which means you just think about the same thoughts over and over again, trauma, all that type of stuff. That's the type of stuff that happens to good people, okay, all the freaking time. Because a lot of times they don't really retaliate. So they don't have a way to vent out that frustration and that pain that they have been inflicted on people, whether it's in school or the workplace. When someone does something bad to them, they're not likely to retaliate. So all that pain stays inside. And of course, it later, follows them throughout the rest of their life. While people like me and a lot of more street smart people would go on the offense and would start doing the same thing that, you know, that you, that they were doing to you, they don't do that. And that makes them even easier targets for people to pick on. And that is the honest truth of the matter. So that's the second reason, okay? And just to add to that, before I get to, of course, the solution of what can be done to, of course, help this issue, you know, or in other words, prevent, teach good people how to prevent this stuff from happening to them, is I just want to mention that's also because, for this filler point right in between, is that this is why it's good for people to not believe everything that they say. Because I've noticed actually, when it comes to good people, they tend to be very focused on a lot of philosophies and ideologies that are actually put out there through the world, okay? Whether it could be from ancient Greece, ancient China, and stuff. But a lot of those opinions and belief systems are just straight up shit, okay? And they don't really work in the real world, okay? Such as the thing that you should always forgive people, you should never hold grudges or be angry. Like, that stuff is stupid. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say here. And that's why they get picked on so badly, because they not only are naturally like this, they don't, they tend to, of course, not hold grudges and seek vengeance. And of course, they're very forgiving. It's also they listen to a lot of these books and ideologies, more specifically these books, of course, from these ancient philosophers who a lot of them probably didn't even spend a day in the general public anyway in their life, because they're rich and powerful people, which is the reason why they're even able to write in a time period where most people are not able to write. And they listen to that stuff and they believe that stuff, and it just helps pollute their mind, and instead of making them more street smart, okay? So that is why people should not listen to those silly books, you know, Specifically the East Asian ones, a lot of them, let alone any ideologies in the world that teach you how to be a good person, okay? All that stuff is complete crap and does not work in the real world. And that's the truth, okay? So now that I've gone out of the way, now the obvious question is, what is the solution to solving this problem, okay? Now, the solution to solving this problem, of course, no surprise, is that you have to realize that you have to go on the offense, okay? Not only do you have to go on the offense when people are disrespecting you, you also have to realize do not forgive everyone, okay? There's a difference between being forgiving and just being foolish, okay? There's a difference between looking at a situation and saying, okay, this was messed up, but this is forgivable. Like maybe my friend took a few of my fries without asking, versus he took thousands of dollars from me, okay? There's a difference between being forgiving and just being foolish, okay? And not to mention, when you go on the offense, when people are disrespecting you, you have to do that, okay? Because when you don't do it, it gives the impression that you're weak and you're easy to pick on. And that's the truth. So, anyway, this is all I have to say for this video. I hope you learned something new. And simply put, I'm out. So, bye.